I think at least when you take a look at from a reflection of the United States, I would simply say it's like breaking a glass into a million pieces. When trust is completely gone, it's breaking a glass into a million pieces, making it almost impossible to put it together. We have so many things that are happening that I focus on that are very disturbing to me. The political corruption, let's say, uh, is everywhere, right? Manipulation of the news, making us all divided and divisive, open borders, questions surrounding the judicial system, questions surrounding the election, inflation, lawlessness in the cities, wokeness everywhere. And then you look at the way that we are handling our affairs around the globe, weaponizing the dollar, weaponizing the treasury market, going around the world in a very coercive manner, which many countries view us as being wholly hypocritical, where Janet Yellen can say to China, listen, we're okay that you're friends with Russia. Well, if I were China, I would be like, well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. That's nice of you. But if you give any money to the Russian war machine, we will sanction your banks, your companies, and even you, Beijing. And pay no mind that we've given $200 billion to the Ukraine with no congressional oversight. That's our business. We're the world reserve currency. We can do this and you can't. And so when you talk about the way that this is being received around the globe, I think it is accelerating the de-dollarization and the de-treasurization. And I fall back to, I don't know what upsets me more, the mismanagement of the dollar and the way that we've squandered the exorbitant privilege of being the world reserve currency, but probably much more what's happened here around the country. And this is not lost on the rest of the world. And I think this is also what is accelerating the de-dollarization and the de-treasurization, the things that I just mentioned at the outset, the lawlessness, the open borders, the elections, the judicial system, all of these things that used to be the cornerstone of what made the United States special I think are being looked at with cross eyes, and rightfully so, across the globe. And that's why I think that, look, the bottom line to me, you guys, is that we are a country that forever has lived well beyond its means. And I think there are consequences to pay for that.
Andy Schectman warns of an impending black swan event for the US economy. He highlights the alarming rate at which the nation is accruing debt. $1 trillion every 100 days. A stark contrast to the over 200 years it took to accumulate the first trillion. He points to systemic issues such as political corruption, media manipulation, open borders, and the destabilization of key institutions, which are eroding trust and accelerating global de-dollarization. With the US living far beyond its means, Schectman believes there are severe consequences looming, potentially culminating in the loss of world reserve currency status.
I think that there are no happy endings when your government and your country has lived well beyond its means for generations. And I think that, we're a country that no longer produces more than we consume. We're creating $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. It took us over 200 years to do that the first time. 1 trillion seconds ago, for reference, was 31,688 years ago. So where are we? What's going on? And the world is really effed up in a big way. And at least this country is. And hopefully we are able to right the ship, because there are a lot of things that are hinging on this next election, I believe, whereby if the current administration stays in here on the course that we are on, we will lose the world reserve status, I believe, the petrodollar hegemony, which is, you could argue the hegemony is already gone. We still control the supremacy, but you can see that this is a trend in decline. And God knows what will happen to this country when we've let 12 million people into the country illegally, which, by the way, the wisdom of our administration, which is, you just can't make it up. The wisdom of our administration just voted to give representation in not only congressional representation, but also representation in the electoral college for all of the people that entered this country illegally. And I mean, it's just absolutely insane. There's something called the Cloward-Piven theory that I would
Yes.
suggest people read.
I'm actually so happy you brought this up. Let's talk
Yeah,
about this because it's very
yeah,
important.
yeah. The Cloward-Piven theory. This is the Cloward and Piven were two professors who taught at Columbia, and it's ironic that Obama went there, Bill Barr went there, Eric Holder went there,
Bill
Madeleine
Clinton.
Albright went there. You got all of these politicians who went there, and the whole theory is to destabilize the country through putting mass stress upon the entitlement program and the inner cities, and creating a serfdom of people who will vote their way forever, right? And so, think about the 12 million people that entered this country that are being given assistance. They're not going to ever vote to have that taken away. And so when you give representation in terms of the electoral college, where you get more votes in all of these blue states where they're all going, it's by design. It's absolutely insane. So what's happening in this country, you guys? I think we've lost our bearings in a very big way.
Continuing the discussion, Andy Schectman highlights a global shift from the US dollar to gold, oil, and silver in trade. He notes that countries are using systems like Project Enbridge to trade commodities in digital yuan, bypassing the dollar. Many nations are withdrawing their gold from the New York Fed, signaling lost trust. BRICS nations are trading in local currencies, and central banks are buying gold while selling treasuries. Schectman suggests this trend could undermine the dollar's global dominance.
What I would go as far as to say that gold and oil and silver are being used as a substitute for the dollar and the treasury. They're being revalued across the globe, remonetized. They are now being viewed as money. And I find it very interesting. The Project Enbridge. Project Enbridge was a cross-border payment system that was designed by United Arab Emirates, who just joined the BRICS, Shanghai, or China rather, and I think Singapore. But it's a cross-border payment system. And the first two trades that we saw last year, the first one was in October of 23. It was for oil using the digital yuan, and the second one in December was for gold. So they bought oil and gold using the cross-border payment system, sidestepping SWIFT, paying for it in the digital yuan. But what is happening, to your point, Dan, is that, too many people focus on the BRICS common settlement currency, and it's coming. Sergei Glaziev has told us it would be here, but they do things in a methodical fashion, and it will be pegged to commodities. What is the only other tier one asset? Oh yeah, that's gold. The BIS reclassified it that way. Why are the central banks buying it? Oh yeah, because it's tier one, because the BIS reclassified it that way. Why are all the countries pulling their gold back from the New York Fed? I mean, a ton of them are pulling their gold back from the New York Fed. Let me give you the names of those banks that are doing so. I'll get to your point in a second, though, about what China is doing. Just in the past couple of months, Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Cameroon, Algeria, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. Before that, it was the German Bundesbank, the Dutch National Bank, the Bank of Austria, Hungary, Poland, Turkey. They're all pulling their gold back because it's smashed glass. We've lost our trust. But what is China doing? You don't need a common settlement currency to destroy the dollar little by little by little by little, logarithmic decay, then bang all at once. When they issue the common settlement currency, 36 more countries have formally applied to BRICS. We'll find out who they are in February, or excuse me, in October when we have the big meeting. But here's what they're doing. They're trading in all of their local currencies. Russia just canceled major wheat contracts, grain contracts with United States and Australia, replaced it with Russia. They will pay for it in yuan, which is immediately convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Think of what we just delivered them, $500 million worth of gold off the West. It's being trucked to Hong Kong Brinks, which is COMEX, and are flown there and then trucked to the Shanghai Exchange, where a country like Russia can accept yuan for their wheat and then convert it immediately into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. They're buying soybeans and corn. Brazil, they're canceling soybean and corn orders from the United States and buying them from the second largest producer of corn in the world, Brazil, a BRICS member, paying for it in yuan, which is immediately convertible into gold, which is what? The only other tier one reserve asset in the world from the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So what you are seeing, I mean, and look at oil, right? We said oil's there too. The biggest, China just won a contract to remodel the biggest airport, or to renovate the biggest airport in Iran, and to build a bunch of bridges. And they're being paid in oil, right? So oil and gold and silver and commodities are being revalued around the world because of the weaponization of the dollar and the treasury market. And so what you are seeing is little by little by little by little, the chipping away at the settlement value of the dollar, which all of these things used to settle in dollars. Now they're settling in local currencies. But people say, well, that's not a reserve currency. Well, it doesn't matter. They are looking at gold and oil and commodities to replace the bond market. Look at the price of gold. It's outpaced the bond market since 2000 wickedly, right? By many, many times, like 3-4 times. But it's averaged 9% per year since 2000, over 9%. It's outpaced the S&P. It's outpaced everything since 2000 without the confiscation risk, the sanction risk. So instead of holding a bond which has this much historical precedent as being an asset, they're replacing it with gold and oil and all of these things. So the settlement status of the dollar gets ripped away by using local currencies. But part of the petrodollar deal was always you take the excess reserves and put them into treasuries. They're not going into treasuries anymore. China's down to 700+ billion in treasuries from 3 trillion. They're all selling their treasuries and buying gold instead. That's why there's a floor under the price of gold. That's why the central banks have bought more than at any time ever, because they are replacing an asset that is being weaponized. If you do not align ideologically with the West, and these countries view us as being wholly hypocritical.
Wrapping up today's video, Andy Schectman discussed the global shift away from the US dollar to commodities like gold, oil, and silver, driven by lost trust and geopolitical tensions. He also highlighted issues like political corruption and economic mismanagement in the US. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below.